Several goalies stood tall this past week. Did their performances between the pipes result in wins? Winny Brodt-Brown and I will discuss the outcomes and get into scoring in the girls' game. Also, Andover's Mackenzie Jones is a goal-scoring defender, but can she fight off our killer questions in this week's PK player profile? And a candid conversation with former D1 standout at Elk River Grad Kelsey about training your brain as well as your body to play this great game. Episode 7, Season 1 of the Girls High School Hockey Report podcast starts right now. Well, tons to talk about again this week as the girls' high school hockey season continues to get more and more intriguing, at least in my opinion. I'm Andy Skugman. She's Winny Brodt-Brown. And Winny, let's get right to it and talk about what I think, and maybe you disagree, but I think it's the upset of the last week. Blake 1-0 winners over Dodge County. Pretty even game overall, but I was a little bit surprised that Dodge County went into Blake and lost.
Yeah, and the biggest glaring thing there is, that Janie McGon probably stole the show there, and against a very good goaltender on the other side for Dodge County, Ida Huber. But the shots, when you looked at it, was 27-22. So that kind of surprised me as how many shots Blake got, and the lack of shots from Dodge County with all the firepower they have. And it looks like that Callie Arthur, sophomore, got an assist from Addie Wethington, another sophomore, in that first period, and it kind of just stayed 1-0 the rest of the game.
Yep, nice win for the Bears there. I want to talk more about goaltending and scoring as we go throughout the podcast here, throughout this episode. Let's though move, because another big game, Benilde St. Margaret's, a team that, I've been waiting for to kind of show what they can do. They defeat Andover 2-1. Andover is 0-for-3 on the power play in the third period. We asked Red Knights senior forward Kendall Hassler how BSM did this, and she said they used their speed to beat the Huskies.
For our game against Andover, we came with the energy and intensity that we knew we needed to have in that game, and we really locked in on our speed to force Andover to stay on their toes. They never really had the chance to set up 5-on-5 because we just kept coming at them, so they couldn't run their full plays, couldn't really create opportunities because we were just hammering them with our speed and staying aggressive. In the game, we also had a really good bench energy, and for every team that can make or break them in hard games, and I thought we really brought the energy and stayed positive even when we were losing. And then Ellie Hancock was a brick wall the whole game. She saved us on some of their opportunities on power play and some of the rushes, so she was a huge reason why we won.
Yeah, and you look also, Hassler had a nice goal that day on the power play along with Bryn Heising and Rusinski, who also can add a lot of offense from the blue line, which I think the Knights have done a good job of getting her going. Had 2 assists for that game. And ironically, we've been talking goalies, and Ellie Hancock, the goalie for Benilde, got an assist that game. So that's kind of always fun to see, and it's a pretty good play in a high school varsity game.
Very nice, very nice. Saturday, we move on to this past weekend. Centennial Spring Lake Park, 2-1 overtime winners over Maple Grove. Centennial Spring Lake Park, the Cougars outshoot Maple Grove 50-24. Bella Prosser in net for the Crimson, 48 saves in the loss. It's the second win this season for Centennial Spring Lake Park over Maple Grove. Cougars senior Tegan Kuhlenkamp scored the game winner in overtime. She described her goal for us.
Our game against Grove was such a good test, and they gave us a super hard game. I mean, I think us and Maple Grove are both really good teams, and Grove is coached super well, and it's never an easy game playing against them, and I think anyone in the state can argue that. But in our game last Saturday, it just came down to forechecking them super hard, and we tried to keep containing them in their zone, and I think that eventually led to my OT goal. It was a big team effort. We just kept winning our battles, and then I put a shot on net, and we just had 2 screens in front, so the goalie couldn't see at all, and that led us to the win. But it was a great win for us, and it was important to us to keep fighting through each period no matter what it took, and this will just give us momentum for our following games this week.
So Centennial Spring Lake Park 10-0. And they beat, as I mentioned, Maple Grove twice now. That's the same team that defeated them to get to the state tournament in the section final last year. I'm just going to say it again, but Centennial Spring Lake Park continues to impress.
Yeah, and Tegan coming up big for her team. And we talked about, the lack of girls scoring, and she'd kind of made a good point on how girls need to score also is those screens and tips, right? She put it to the net and people are there to screen because these goalies are so good that you need to have bodies in front for things to happen.
For sure. Let's talk more about that because when we for the very first episode, I asked you what has the biggest change been in girls hockey since you were playing in high school, and your answer to me was the goalies are much better. Here's my
Oh,
question.
100%.
Yep,
Yep.
for sure. Now, what's not happening, I don't think, is that the next step maybe should be that how do we get girls to score more? Because you look at these numbers and Bella Prosser, 48 saves, but her team can only manage one goal. Janie McGaughan, she stops. Moorhead beat Blake on Friday of last week. Moorhead outshoots Blake 40-19. Janie stops 38 of 40, but Blake doesn't score any goals. So what do we need
Right.
to do
Well,
to develop goal
yeah.
scorers?
And you look at the Roseville Hamada Midai versus White Bear Lake. I watched part of that game in the third, and it was 1-0 White Bear Lake, and the Marauders had outshot them 47-14
Mhm,
and had to
mhm.
tie it up. Megan Packer, eighth grader, to go into OT. So I think that it's when I'm watching when the girls take shots, their shot selection isn't always great. It's, sometimes to the outside of the dots. I also think that they have to have more patience around the net. That's a big thing. Instead of just shooting it right back into it, you got to make the goalies move because the goalies are too good. And I always say, you got to get the puck across the Royal Road, or that's the hockey term, but I always call it to the players I coach. Get the puck across the river, right?
Right.
Mississippi, because there is an imaginary lane way down the middle of the zone that raises the probability of scoring greatly, which is, if you look at the stats, it's crazy when a puck crosses it prior to a shot. So that means the puck has to cross that middle line, and then the puck or the player with the puck, right? So the player with the puck is going across, and they got to slide it back over the midline to the back doors. So I think girls just need to see that more and use that more. And let's face it, I was an offensive D, and you got to involve your D.
Yes, you
I
do.
mean, you got to have that fourth attacker, and those, forwards have to see them and utilize them
Yep.
because the game's getting better.
Minnetonka 2-1 over Moorhead. Tonka outshoots the Spuds 43-16. Taylor Crescent for the Spuds 41 saves in the loss. Again, they lose 2-0. So I mean, what you're talking about is incredibly important. I'd like to see that next evolution, and I think it is coming. So, all right, let's talk next week. This week? I'm sorry, this week. Dodge County has a chance for redemption. They're at Orono on Tuesday night. That is a huge game in Class A.
Yeah, and it's the game from last year at state. So, both teams are going to be ready for that game and that rematch. And once again, we've talked about goalies. You got Ida Huber, who's having a great season, and you got Vivian Anderson. And both teams have, offense. They're solid all the way across the board, both teams, and very well coached. So it'll be a matchup to kind of watch going into the end of the season.
Yep, Edina at Holy Family. The Hornets are coming off a 5-3 win over Holy Angels. Lolo Nelson with 2 power play goals in that game. We asked Lolo why the power play is clicking so well right now.
It's been looking very good recently. I'm super proud of what it's become. Definitely took a couple games to get used to it just because it is a unique kind of style of power play and one a lot of people aren't used to. But I think we're all in a pretty good groove right now. All 5 of us really work together, have learned when to take a shot, when to move it, when to play quick and slow it down. And I think it shows.
So you talk about Winnie going across the Royal Road. I mean, Edina definitely did that last year in the last season in the state championship game. Lolo passed it across the slot. Whitney Horton buried it. That turned out to be the game winner. So Edina certainly has a great power play.
Yeah, and that's why they win a lot of championships, right? Because you look at when it comes down to the final games, and they're usually the best teams, and the power plays and special teams are the ones that win it. And Edina is such a threat because their power play is, I'd say, probably one of the best in the state at this point, because you look, they're scoring at least a couple goals every time, and they're getting scoring from Morley, they're getting it from McCoy, Audrey Davis, Horton, Libby Moe, their D. I mean, it's kind of coming from everywhere. That's why, and with Horton, they're a threat everywhere on the ice, whether it's power play or even strength.
Here's a good game.
And their goaltending.
And their goal,
Right?
and
They
their
can put either
goaltending.
goalie
Yeah,
in.
right. Either
It's
goalie
not only do
works.
they have one phenomenal goalie, they have two.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Mhm.
Roseau Bemidji, possible Section 8 semifinal or final. That should be a good game too up north.
Yeah. So, and when you play those northern teams, those are the teams that are, very skilled. They play the game the right way, and they're willing to block shots. And what I told my kids is, you got to be able to eat pucks. Teams that are competitive and get to those state tournaments are the teams willing to sacrifice, and those are two teams that are definitely play that style.
Last but not least for the week, Hill Murray, Andover. Boy, this is a good one. Friday night at Andover. Andover has played a very tough schedule. If you look at some of the top teams in the state right now, Andover probably has the toughest schedule. They might have the worst record, but the toughest schedule. On the flip side, I don't think Hill Murray, they've played Holy Family and Edina. Those are kind of the only two real tough tests. So I'm looking forward to this Friday night. What do you think?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think, there's some keys to the game. I think Andover has to test Hill Murray's goaltending. They got to get pucks to the net, and I think it's going to be a battle of the first lines on both teams, and because both teams have phenomenal defense on the back end. And then Hill Murray's keys is probably power play. They're going to have to focus on and try to take advantage of that if those power plays come.
Winnie, thanks for the time once again. I appreciate the insight. Have a good week, and we'll talk again next week.
Thank you.
Mackenzie Jones has been an anchor on the blue line for Andover since 9th grade. She's now a senior and trying to help lead the Huskies back to the state championship game one last time and hopefully win one more state championship before she graduates. Mac, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Good.
Let's talk about your season so far, Andover. If you just look at the record, the results are a bit mixed, but if you look more closely, I think you've probably played the toughest schedule of the top teams in Class AA.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your thoughts. What are your strengths? What are the weaknesses of this Husky team? And just what are your overall thoughts so far?
Yeah, we definitely do have a pretty tough schedule this year, which is actually really good for us because we kind of go through a bunch of adversity this year when it's not exactly going completely how you expect it to go, which is totally okay. But I think we definitely have some things to learn, but we definitely have some strengths, our experience. We have so many girls that have played varsity before. So we definitely have the knowledge on how to play and everything. And I think the tough schedule is actually really good for us in that way because the new girls, when it's not going our way or something, our upperclassmen kind of guide them through things that are going to happen during state or something sections, when stuff isn't going our way. So I think that's really good for us. But I think some of our weaknesses this year is just trying to find our team chemistry still. We've been switching around lines a lot, trying to figure out who flows well with each other. So we're still trying to find that path of things. And I think one goal for us right now is staying out of the box. We've been in the box and we definitely play way better 5-on-5.
Most people do. Yeah. Talk a little bit about the importance. You sort of mentioned, you've got a lot of experience on this team. How important is it to you personally? How important do you think it is for this group of seniors who've been together a long time to have a chance and maybe win it all one more time?
Yeah, it would definitely mean the world. I mean, every single girl in the state, like their dream is to win a state title. And we started our freshman year, like, I think it was 31-0 and we won state. Like, that was like a dream come true. Like, never thought that would happen. And then boom, it happened. And I think finishing off strong with all these girls, one last go around would definitely like just be a way to end it. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Before or after the state tournament and after your senior year, you're on your way to Madison, Wisconsin. Give me your kind of the deciding factor in your choice. You were one of the most highly recruited, and rightfully so. You're a tremendous hockey player. You were recruited by a number of schools, I can only assume, and I don't know that for a fact, but Wisconsin is obviously the best hockey team in the country, in my opinion. I mean, I guess people could argue Ohio State here and there, but currently right now, for sure. Tell me what the deciding factor was for you to choose to become a Badger.
Yeah, I would definitely say the coaches and the culture. The coaches, they have just such like great experience and are just great people in general. I think they can like help me achieve my goals like on and off the ice, becoming like a better player, better person, and then just the culture and drive. All like every girl that enters like that team has like a goal for themselves. And I think their culture of work ethic and everything will help me as well.
Good.
Accomplish some of those goals.
Well, I wish you all the best at Wisconsin. I wish you the best the rest of the season. But before you go here, I wish you the best because the toughest test is about to happen. This is the PK player profile. It is 5 questions in 50 seconds. If you answer all 5 of them correctly, you successfully kill off the PK. Are you ready, Mac Jones?
Yes.
All right, number 1. Best Christmas gift ever and why?
Ooh, that's actually hard. Probably my Alexa. Like, just to jam out to music while, like, I shoot or, like, while I'm laying in bed or something. That was pretty sick.
What is the go-to song or artist before every game?
Probably Tyler Childers. Just kind of like a low-key, kind of keep my nerves calm.
What is your very first memory of hockey, and is it a good one?
Yeah, probably just seeing the high school girls skate for the first time. That's like really the reason why I started hockey.
What is your New Year's resolution, and what are the chances you'll actually accomplish it?
I think for me is procrastination. No more procrastination, but I don't know if that will really work.
Greatest goal you've ever scored, and why was it?
Probably against Orono in overtime in 12A's, the Stillwater tournament at Ritter Arena. It was a breakaway, and I was like about to fall, and I deked her, and I scored, and it was insane.
Oh, that's great. Well, Mac, congratulations. You just got under the 50 seconds. That was awesome. You successfully kill off the PK. Thanks for playing. Thanks for coming on, and truly, good luck. Hopefully, Hill Murray and oh, that's right. I got to ask you one more question. Hill Murray and Andover this week. Fine. Yep, Hill Murray, Andover. What's going to happen there? I can't believe I forgot that, but this should be a good game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think our team's really pumped. We definitely have some fuel underneath our stomach from last year. But I know this year definitely hasn't been going this way, so definitely some fuel from that too. And I think it will be a great game, so I think we're ready to play.
All right, Mac, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Well, we talked to Dylan Bjork from Perfect World Hockey Training about the importance of working out in season. You can hear that interview by going back to episode 1. We've also discussed off-ice stick handling and shooting with Lance Pitlick, founder of onlinehockeytraining.com. You can listen to that conversation in episode 4. In this episode, we're going to stick with the off-ice theme, but let's focus on the mental side of the game rather than the physical side. Our next guest is someone who has been through this journey herself and is now trying to help others as a mental performance coach with Mental Edge, Inc. Kelsey King is an Elk River High School grad, a 5-year Division I hockey player, and member of the USA women's national team during the 2022-2023 rivalry series, as well as the USA women's collegiate team in 2022 and 2023. Kelsey, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, before we talk about how parents and players should be prioritizing the mental side of the game, I'm hoping you'd be willing to share just a story or two about the challenges you faced in your playing career. You're pretty public about it. Even on the bio on the website, on the Mental Edge website, you write, "My identity became so intertwined with my sport that failures on the ice translated into personal failures, leading to bouts of depression, anxiety, helplessness, and a lack of purpose." First, I applaud you for your candor. It cannot be easy to say all this, particularly in a culture where toughing it out is rewarded. When did you know that you were really struggling, and how did you work through it? Because in the end, you really have had a tremendous hockey career. How did you do this?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's so, first, I want to touch on that too. I think it's so important. Our stories have so much value, and I think it's so important that we share them, right? I think it's so important that it becomes more normal for us to share our struggles and what we're going through. So again, just a plug for that too, for anyone out there that might also feel like, man, I have such a great story, but I feel like I shouldn't share it. But again, going off of that in sharing more and speaking more on what you just mentioned. So when I was younger, I actually started working with a mental performance coach when I was 12. So that's kind of where it started for me. Now, do I think at 12 years old that I thought I needed a mental performance coach? Absolutely not. I mean, I remember telling my dad straight up, no, I'm not meeting that guy. And he's like, Kelsey, this is going to be really good for you. I'm like, no, I'm not meeting that guy. At the time, I didn't think I needed it at all. Now, fast forward, playing college hockey, 20, 21, 22 years old. And some of that stuff really started to sink in. And it started to sink in when I started to hit those struggles. As most know, when you're a successful hockey player through high school, you get into college, you're successful in college, you're like, man, I got it made. Like, this is awesome. Like, things are going so smoothly. But then, as everyone knows, you're not perfect. And when you live by an identity that you're perfect, you start to find holes very quickly. And I think that was something for me, being used to having so much success came with a heavy burden and a heavy weight as well. Being a 1%er and kind of dedicating a lot of your time to the craft that maybe other people don't see as much. They don't do as much as you. You know, you stay after 30 minutes, you go before 30 minutes. It's lonely. And when you're talented, you have a target on your back too. People want that, right? And so I think all of that started to become real for me when I started facing that and realizing that truth, on top of starting to have some slumps. I would say, you know, junior year was great at Mankato, and then I feel like senior year, right, I kind of hit a tough patch. I kind of hit what some would call a slump. And I think that when you hit that slump, that's when that self-doubt comes in. That's when the low confidence comes in. And that's when you begin to feel overwhelmed, right? You feel depressed, kind of like I mentioned. And you're looking for someone to help pull you out of it. And that's why I preach, and that's why I'm a mental performance coach, because it was in that time that I actually discovered my greater purpose of the opportunity to serve others and help the other 1%ers or the others that are self-doubting themselves or lacking confidence. And because my mental performance coach was the one that really helped me navigate the way out.
You mentioned being perfect. And I think there's so many players at every level, those that make it to the top level, they're perfectionists. How do you battle that? What do you say to parents and players, parents with kids who are perfectionists or the players themselves? What do you say to them and how do you get them to really understand that, hockey's a game of mistakes?
hmm Oh, such a great question. Such a great question and so important. Um, I think a lot of it, there's like three things that I think are super important and a part of my, daily practice as a mental performance coach. It's to provide support, and I guess encouragement can kind of be combined with that word. It's to provide clarity and it's to provide challenge. And when people are stuck in the perfectionism mindset, sometimes it's because one of those is out of whack, right?
Sure.
It's because maybe you've been given too much encouragement and you've been told all your life, right, that you are perfect. And that might almost feed into you actually having a very hard time coming to terms with perfectionism later on the road when you do face a failure or mistake. And then I think there is just being an athlete that's so hard on themselves constantly and feels like there's always a standard that they have to meet. And when you feel as though you can't meet that standard, the challenge is either off or there's clarity that's lacking. And so when you're talking to a parent, right, are you asking your kids questions, right? Are you being clear in, hey, this is like what we saw tonight. Like, what did you think? Having an open dialogue, but it can't come without questions and without you being clear with support, right? And then again, that helps the kid to feel like, wow, or at least it helped me to feel like, wow, like I don't have to be perfect. There's going to be nights where I'm off, but there's someone that's actually asking me questions and shows that they care about me. And then I listen to the challenge part, because I think that that's where most parents are like, well, how am I supposed to, I'm trying to help push them to be their best.
Right.
It's like, yes, I hear you. I hear you that you're trying to help push them to be their best, but are they clear in what their best looks like? Because if they think their best has to be perfect, they're never going to meet that expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I would say. That is kind of what I coach people through.
I want to ask you about a bit of a pet peeve of mine. My oldest, I guess I could say I forced her to play multiple sports all the way through high school. She's now a senior. Hockey is her primary sport. She's also played golf in high school. She's also played tennis in high school. She's missed Elite League games, God forbid, to play tennis, right? And you're a former tennis player, right? You played at Elk River, you went to the state tournament. But you stopped playing competitively and went to college, understand. But I actually think it's super important mentally for kids to play multiple sports. And to take it one step further, I think it's really important that hockey players in a team sport are actually playing some individual sports to learn. Because if there's a game that you're not perfect in, it's golf. And if you think you're perfect, go play golf, because you're gonna know pretty quickly.
Amen.
But I think that's been good for my oldest daughter, Josie. What do you think about the importance of playing multiple sports at a competitive level? Not just, I just go play, hang out and do it. I mean, they're playing.
Yeah, so again, we could even go off of the perfectionism train here. I think it's so good to have an escape. I think it's so good to have something that, you still compete. You're still competitive with it. I mean, I don't know all the multi-sport athletes that I've been around or played with. I don't know a single one of them that was not competitive or not pissed when they lost in their tennis match, just like they were pissed when they lost in their hockey game, right? Every single one of them was. But I think what it helps you to learn is that you're more than just that one sport, right? Like, why do we fall into the perfectionism mindset? Because we think our whole identity is wrapped up in it. We think, quite literally, I know from experience, it's like life or death in some ways, right? Like our mind goes into fight or flight because that sport is everything to us. If we don't play well in that game, then everything outside of hockey is so much more dull, right? You feel frustrated, you're thinking on it, you're dwelling on it. Well, what a beauty, I thought, in tennis of how, You want to talk about something that balances you out and makes you realize that you have talents and other things in life? Oh my gosh, like I learned so much from my tennis game. Like I learned so much about myself, both physically, mentally, as a human being, as an athlete. I learned so much, and I credit a lot of my hockey game. I played the most free, and actually, I want to add on this. I was in nursing in college. When I was at Mankato, I was also doing nursing school. And my point that how this all connects is nursing school was kind of like my tennis matches. I would have clinicals in hospitals, and it was almost like a tennis match for me because it was a different way to challenge me and see the value that I could bring. Just like I saw the value that I brought for my tennis team, it allowed me to have another escape, right? Like when you have another sport, when you're a multi-sport athlete, or you have another passion, maybe you're super artistic and you're really good at drawing and painting. That is something else that helps you to learn quicker, that your value is not just, your identity is not just wrapped up in that one thing, which unlocked, I'm serious, unlocked some of my best hockey I've ever played. And heck, I was missing practice sometimes for nursing school. I was missing elite league games, like you said. And people would be like, a lot of people would think, oh my gosh, how is she going to get the college looks? How is she going to develop if she's not at her elite league games? How is she going to play in her college hockey game on the weekend effectively if she is missing like 2 days a week of practice or a day a week of practice? But I played my best hockey, so how does that add up, right? And that's where, again, I learned that that's mental. That is taking a step back and seeing the value you bring, and that you're not defined by perfectionism in hockey, but you actually bring so much value into all these different areas of your life. And when you don't fixate on one, it's crazy how that one starts to open up for you.
Kelsey, you're now working with Sean Goodsell from Mental Edge. Sean is really a phenomenal mental performance coach. If someone wanted to have their daughter work with you, what would that look like? What kind of support would it be? Walk us through what that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on SeanGoodsell.com is his website. And what that kind of looks like if you were to sign up to work with me is I recommend no less of, like, I would say every 2 weeks. So we'd be once a week, then have a week off, then meet another week. Or you could do every single week. It kind of depends. I always ask the question of, how do you learn best? I think learning styles is really good because you'll meet some athletes, and a lot of coaches can relate with this. And some people are super like engaging, right? And some people are really quick, fast learners. So they're pretty self-driven, and you might not have to meet every week because they're pretty good at being able to take care of what they need to take care of. Others, you might find that they need a little extra support and they forget things quicker. So that's where I would say every week for those individuals. And again, I let them decide. I also don't want this to be a chore. I know how much training they put in to their sport because I did the same exact thing. And so I never want a conversation to be like, oh my gosh, like I gotta meet with her every single week. No, if you're like Kelsey, right? I'm not gonna be another, I know the days you don't want to go to the gym, trust me, because there's days that I didn't want to go to the gym. So I know that, but I want it. So what I'm basically getting at is I'm super flexible, but the longest I'll go out is waiting 2 weeks to meet. So every 2 weeks, right? That's kind of the longest that I wait out, but otherwise that, why that is too. It's because I want to help them be held accountable. Just like you shoot in the garage. Why do you shoot in the garage? To continue to hone in your skill. Why do you meet with Kelsey frequently? Or, why don't we do once? A lot of people ask me, why don't you do once a month? I don't do once a month because I can't talk to them enough, right? Like they'll forget. They'll be like, again, support, clarity, and challenge. The support piece kind of falls out if they only hear from Kelsey once a month. So that is kind of what the process looks like. And then I do it on Zoom. It's awesome. The kids love it.
It's easy.
They can do it. Yep, they can do it in their own home, in the safety of their room. And their schedules are so busy, especially high schoolers. They're so busy. And so I'll just have them text me, or I have a scheduling link, and they'll say, yeah, Kelsey, I'm done with practice at whatever time. Can we hop on for an hour from 5 to 6? And I'm like, yeah, great, perfect. So I'm also a firm believer in showing up for my clients. So I like to go watch their games. I don't have that in my package written anywhere, but that's just something I like to do. I like to watch them, and I like to be in contact with them. Hey, how'd you feel about the game last night? And that's something special that the Mental Edge does. We want to make it as much of a relationship as possible. And you know what my goal is? To make every single athlete I meet with to feel like they're the only athlete I work with. And that, to me, is what I think is so important, and I take major pride in.
Kelsey King, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your story, for helping us here at the podcast make a parent or two, I think twice about supporting their child's mental game. It is as important, if not more important, than shooting pucks in the garage or going to skating lessons or going to practice. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Girls High School Hockey Report podcast. Please share this episode and the 6 others with friends, family, former teammates, and even future frenemies. Hey, we'd really appreciate any and all shares, likes, follows, and feedback. Thanks again to Kelsey King, Mackenzie Jones, and the queen of girls hockey in our state, Winny Brodt-Brown. This episode was written by yours truly and produced and edited by Cy Dotson from Triumph Pictures. We'll talk again next week, and hopefully I'll see you around a rink real soon.